Hi, I'm Minnie.
And I like art.
My first memory of making art was when I took my mum's diary out of her bag and drew something that looked like this. From then on, drawing became one of my favourite activities, and I spent all my days drawing Disney characters from books and movies that I liked, and animals. I even made up my own original characters and made stories about them. And even now, I'm not sure if I made up the stories because I wanted to draw the characters, or I made up the characters because I wanted to write the stories. Whatever the reason, I had a load of fun, and to this day, one of my dreams is still to write a book and illustrate it. My art is heavily inspired by the stories I grew up listening to. So it goes without saying that the art that I love is the art that depicts fantastical storytelling scenes. I love pictures that make you look and make you wonder what the story is behind it. I especially admire artists who draw scenes from space. Science fiction is one of my favourite genres. I'm actually quite obsessed with it. Space is so mysterious and fantastic and beautiful, and there's so many artists out there who've created scenes and lands. Wow, there's a buzzard out there.
12 seconds later.
There are so many artists out there who've depicted fantastical scenes and lands and have used space as their inspiration. To quote a famous redhead, there's so much scope for the imagination. Confession time. Although I love this type of art, I've not been the best at creating it for the following reasons. 1. Quite frankly, sometimes I don't know where to start. 2. Fear of failure. I don't even attempt something because I know I'm not experienced enough for the final result to be how I want it to be. 3. I struggle with getting the idea in my head to look good on paper, because when you're drawing from imagination, where do you get the references? And 4. Procrastination. In 2020, I had quite a lot of time on my hands for some reason, and so I decided enough is enough. I was going to actively attempt to create pieces of art that were a reasonable portrayal of original ideas that I came up with completely inside my own head. I was going to crack the code and bring my ideas to life. In this video, I'm going to give you a walkthrough of how I go from having the spark of an idea to a finished piece. We're going to take this journey together, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll have some tips and tricks to take your art to the next level, because nothing should stop you from creating your next best piece. Let's get started. First of all, I had to conquer these 4 things that were stopping me from starting these more ambitious pieces of art.
So, where do I start?
It's kind of discouraging to admire something, to want to make your own version of it, and have a great idea in your head, but come to a halt because you don't know where to start. I had an idea recently. So we've covered the fact that I love all things space. You may not know that another aesthetic that I really like is the Wild West. All that deserty cactus stuff is really just sublime to me. Therefore, my idea was, I want to draw a cowboy on the moon. My next thought was, how do I even begin to do that? 2 words. Mood board. Mood board. Mood board. What is a mood board? Well, it's a collection of different images and aesthetics that you collate together to get an idea of where you want to start. It's a place where you can collect potential references and colour schemes and bring them together in a beautiful and inspiring partnership. To build my mood board, I just searched for keywords like space and cowboy on Pinterest, and then took a screenshot of all the images that sparked joy. This sparked joy, 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 this colour palette sparked joy. You get what I mean. Now, I used the app Procreate to make my mood board because I needed to put it together quickly in order to edit this vid. But you don't need an iPad or fancy tech to make a mood board. You can print pics and make a cool collage, which actually sounds like great fun. You can cut out pics from a magazine and use magnets to stick them to your fridge if you want. You can even make quick sketches of your favourite ideas on a page. You can also create a virtual pinboard on Pinterest or Canva, and there's plenty of other software to create mood boards as well. Just Google it. What I'm trying to say is, you can make a mood board with the materials you have. You don't need to use exactly what I'm using. Don't let that be an excuse. So now that I've finished with that lecture, here are the elements that I recommend that you add to your mood board. But you can absolutely add other elements if you want.
References.
I cannot describe how much references can help you with your drawings. You may have heard people say,
real artists don't need references.
well, with all due respect,
That's a load of nonsense.
even the great Italian masters like Leonardo da Vinci and Sandro Botticelli, who could probably draw a perfect human being while being stood on their heads, used models to make sketches before they started their great works of art. For your mood board, gather references that you think will be useful for your piece of art. For mine, I'm looking for landscapes that would pass for terrain on a faraway planet, and also for inspiration on the kind of aesthetic I'm looking for. I'm going for that sort of retro space travel look. I'm also adding a cowboy to my composition, so I want to find a reference of a cowboy that will fit right into the scene that I'm creating. Therefore, I'm looking for cowboy references as well. If you really want to go the extra mile for your work, then you can actually go out and take references for yourself. You can also get your parents or siblings or friends to pose, so you can use those as your figure references. Disclaimer. One thing that I would like to note, we use references for inspiration and to help with the structure of our compositions. We do not use them to copy or steal another person's artwork. We're not here to replicate an existing piece of art, we're here to create our own artwork. I like to see it as standing on the shoulders of those who have gone before us. We learn from them and we're inspired by them, but we don't copy their work and promote it as our own. And remember, if you copy someone else's work just to practice, then always credit them. I could go on about this for a while, but this video is not about that, so let's get back to the mood board.
3 hours later.
Another thing I recommend that you add to your mood board is a colour palette. I personally want the colours on my mood board to be varied, yet complementary. By organising a colour palette before you start on your piece, you're giving yourself a great foundation to work upon. Side note, colour theory is a great thing to learn because it helps you incorporate colours into your art that are complementary. Wow, that is a fantastic orange. The best way to learn colour theory is just to make art. But here's a little lesson. This is the colour wheel. The colours that are opposite each other complement each other. For example, blue is complementary to orange. Learning about colours is something I'm currently working on. And over the past year, I've noticed an improvement in my art as I've learnt more about colours. So back to the mood board. I've selected these colours. I may use them all, I may not, but they're really good to refer to. And I know they'll look really good together. I've been liking a navy blue and an orange recently. And I think those two colours are going to feature heavily in this piece. But we'll see. So without further ado, here's the mood board I've put together. Isn't it a beauty? We have environmental images, we have some figure references, we have colour inspiration, and most of all, we have a general foundation that we can use to make this piece. I went the extra mile with this one and took my favourite elements and then stuck them together as a sort of inspirational collage. I then dabbled with the tones and lighting so I could use it as a basic reference when I started my sketch. I even added a belt and a holster to the cowboy for his, snacks.
The next morning.
By creating this mood board, I've conquered 2 of the things that were stopping me from starting this art piece. 1, not knowing where to start from, and 2, not knowing where to get my references from. I've essentially faced those blocks and said, I'm going to take charge of this situation. If I don't have a starting point, I'm going to make one. If I don't have a reference for a scene that I've imagined up, I'll make one. When it comes to leveling up with art, we have to stop making excuses and start coming up with solutions. We are creatives, and creatives aren't just artists, we're idea people as well. We can use our brains to come up with solutions that other people wouldn't even think of. People call this gift as being able to think out of the box. It's a great gift that we can use to our advantage, so we should use it.
Now we come to facing the other 2 points, fear of failure and procrastination. I'll be honest with you, I've done most of the prep for making this artwork, but I haven't got around to actually making it yet. And why is that? Well, this whole video is to show you how building a mood board and using references can help you create an amazing picture. And now I have to prove that to you by actually practicing what I preach. I have to create this space cowboy picture. And you know what? Potentially, this could be my most favourite artwork that I've made to date. It has space, it has a cowboy. It's the coming together of 2 of my favourite things. But because of that, I'm also afraid I could disappoint myself. I might not have the skill to make it just as good as I want it to be. Other people might not like it. You might not like it. Also, this mock-up thing I've done looks really cool. How is my painting gonna compete with that? All these things are genuinely going through my head. So how do I combat these things? Well, it's pretty simple. I've just gotta get on and do it. Both fear of failing and procrastination stop us from doing things that are important to us. And guess what? Failure isn't a bad thing. It may make us feel bad, but it's a natural thing that happens in life. We need to accept that sometimes there will be times where we fail. Failures are really hard to accept, but actually they help us to learn. Every time I make a mistake in my artwork, I get to see where I went wrong. And the next time I make another art piece, I won't repeat that same mistake, hopefully. Don't let failure discourage you. Use failure to level up. I'm 100% certain that when I make this picture, I'm gonna make mistakes. It's gonna happen. But you know what? The mistakes I made in my last picture, I won't make in this one. The easiest way to get over fear of failure is to accept that sometimes you are gonna fail. And that is okay. Learn from those failures and then enjoy the victories that follow. Before I talk about procrastination, I'm just going to make a coffee, go for a walk, maybe discover a secret garden, compose the next big hit, and maybe read a short story. I'm just kidding. Well, a little bit. Let me tell you something. I am a huge procrastinator. When I was at university, I was doing an all-nighter, not recommended by the way. I had to write an essay on animal nutrition. I had 3 hours left until the deadline. So you know what I did instead? I researched organ donation and signed up as an organ donor. At that point, I would rather donate my organs than finish my assignment. How ridiculous is that? I don't think it would be shocking for you to know that I got a really bad mark on that assignment and had to retake that module. That was a double whammy lesson because I learned about failure and the pitfalls of procrastination. It's been a few years since then, and I've got a bit better at not procrastinating. But I do find myself procrastinating with this piece of art. And if I take any more time, I'm going to be editing this video at the last minute. And I might not have enough time to get it ready so you can watch it. Therefore, I'm going to look procrastination dead in the face and say, not today. And you know what? That's what you should do too. If there's a task you've got to do or a piece of art you want to make an effort to put aside all your distractions and get to it. You'll achieve so much more. You will be able to give your full attention to whatever it is you're doing. So, with that being said, let's get on with this art piece, shall we?
So it's a beautiful day today and I don't want to waste that. I don't want to sit inside painting. So I think I'm going to set up a table outside and paint. And I'm going to use watercolours, I think. So it might work in my favour because the sun will dry the watercolour layers faster. So let's go. Here's a little shot of my professional setup. What a delight. Okay, this is where I am so far. My camera has run out of battery, so I'm having a little break. But I feel good about this. It's looking good. I feel like the colours are a bit too bright for my personal taste. So I'm going to tone down the orange a tad, a little tiny bit. But yeah, I'll see you when the camera's charged again, I guess. It's good anyway, because it means that this layer can dry nicely. Excuse me, miss. Have you been drinking my paint water? So I've done like half of it now, but what I want to do now is do the sky, because that's the darkest part, and I need to do the darkest part now, so I know where to bring the highlights and the shadows out in the rest of it. If you know what the darkest part is and you know what the lightest part is, then you know the general tone of the whole piece. So I'm going to go ahead and do the sky now. I've done quite a bit of it off camera because my battery was charging and it takes about 7,000 years to charge. So you'll see that quite a bit has been done. And I also think that once I've done with the painting, I'm going to do details in coloured pencil as well, just to make it really sharp. So yeah, I'm happy with how it's going. I think it looks good, and I can see it's potential now. There was a point when I was like, I can't do this. I'm not good at drawing, this is rubbish. But there's always a point during a painting or a drawing when you have that feeling. It's called, oh my gosh, there are ducklings on the river. I always get distracted. So distracted. What was I saying? Whatever. I've just seen ducklings, so I don't really care what I was saying. But yeah, I'm going to do the sky now, so that'll be nice. Well, hello. I'm back again, and I have some news. I think I finished it. Well, okay, I could work on it more, but I know that I've got to edit the video, so I'm gonna stop. And it's like, it's fine, it's at a place where I can stop, so it's very exciting. Here I am at the end of this project. So, what are my thoughts? Well, it's good to give yourself constructive criticism when you've finished an art project. So that's what I'm gonna do. Be kind, but be honest as well. First, some positives. If you're all wondering, I found the mood board very helpful. I printed out both the mood board and the mock-up reference that I made, and I kept them beside me as I was painting. And then when I felt like I was getting off track a little bit, I just had a look at them, and that helps me get back in the zone again. I decided to take my time with this painting. Normally, when I do something like this, I'm so eager to get the idea on paper that I actually end up messing it up. This time, I made less mistakes because I allowed myself to take more time. In this Instagram age, we're expected to make fast content every single day. But with that, we lose sight of how people really make good art. These amazing masterpieces were not just a quick thought chucked on a canvas in one day. They were meticulously planned and lovingly put together by the artist. We as artists need to remember this and put more effort into our craft so that we can produce more meaningful pieces, rather than rush and not give ourselves enough time and space to study the task and enjoy the process. This is something I've been trying to improve on as well, and I think making this painting has helped show me how beneficial it is to give yourself time. So, where's my room for improvement? Well, my least favourite part of this piece is actually the sky. I decided to add this row of planets, but I didn't really think about how I was going to paint them. In hindsight, I would have masked off some areas on the planets to leave some parts of them white. I tried to fix it with white ink after, but I don't think it's as effective. When I make another piece like this in the future, I'll try to collect more references of planets and the sky. I also think some of the stars are a bit too big. Next time, I'll use a finer applicator for the masking fluid. I tried to fix this by adding a halo around the stars with a coloured pencil, and I actually really liked how they turned out, so I think that's a win. Next time, I'll try and improve on these things by doing some preliminary sketches before I start the final piece. Which brings me to making sketches before you start a more ambitious piece of art. Preliminary sketches always help to make a final piece much better. They give you a chance to make the mistakes before you even start it. This time I didn't do sketches because I had a deadline to get this painting done by, but I think it really would have helped. In the future, my process will be 1. Create a mood board, 2. Make preliminary sketches, and then 3. Start on the final piece. Overall, I really like how this turned out, and I'm really happy with my first attempt at making a sci-fi western scene. I'm certain that with practice and the use of inspirational tools such as a mood board and references, I'll be able to make better pieces in the future. I hope you found this process inspiring and that you're encouraged to keep leveling up with your artwork. Remember, it takes time and practice to get better at art, but if you put in the work, you'll move forward with leaps and bounds, I promise. One of the great things about art is that with practice, you will always improve. It's absolutely guaranteed and it's very satisfying to see. Anyway, it's time to finish up here. I hope you have a great rest of your day and that you continue to be creative into the future. See ya!